thank you so much for coming to the show. I know it took lots of years of me pestering you to come on, but we have been so thrilled to have you come and share your wealth of knowledge.
I was really delighted to come, and if I hadn't pulled up and searched for your name, I wouldn't have known you'd asked so many years because I'd just forgotten that I'd been invited before.
Well,
it's really a delight to me to be here.
Well, thank you. So we wanted to kind of get to know a little bit more about you, and so one of the things we wanted to know is, as a quilter, do you work on just one quilt at a time, or do you sort of bounce around between projects?
I usually have a big quilt on the go, something that takes a lot of concentration and thought, and which I'm deliberate. Every choice is going to take time, and I have that rolling along in the background. But now and again, I'll pull out fabric and make something quick and fun. And sometimes I have 2 or 3 going at the same time. I do at the moment.
Okay, so now in your studio, is it large? Is it compact?
I guess I would call it a tiny little granny flat we built on for my eldest daughter when she was at university. It's about the size of a large bedroom, and it's got a tiny kitchenette and bathroom. My dye lives in the bathroom. My dyes live in the bathroom. And I've got a design wall and a big table. It is tiny.
So with a large quilt, how do you display that when you're working on it in process?
I actually cannot put the whole big quilt on the wall at the same time if it's the size of the biggest ones I had in the show. I have to work the top, and then I hitch it all up, sewn up together, and then I work the bottom. And
so do you, in your design process, do you start with an overall design idea and then let the quilt sort of tell you where to go? Or do you sketch the whole thing out and know this is what it's going to look like?
Sometimes I sketch it out, but then it will take off in different directions. It doesn't necessarily become what I had in the beginning. I do a lot of thinking. I do maybe 2 months of thinking about most of the quilts before I feel I just have to get it down on paper. I have to write down some ideas, I have to draw something, I have to take some photographs to work towards what I want to make. And so it takes a while to sort of put together the ideas, and then I'll start making elements of it and work out how they're going to go together.
So because you've lived in so many places, we're really curious to know, what does your stash look like, and what are you drawn to personally, fabric-wise, or is it just a little of everything?
I had the world's most embarrassing task before we went to Cairo, because I had to count, document, and itemize and cost my stash. Right? I took a metre of each of 5 different types of fabrics: one homespun, one expensive kaf facet, one sort of Ruttenegger print, different sorts of fabrics. And I cut a careful metre and I weighed them. I weighed each one, and then I added them together. And then I just picked up a basket of fabric, weighed it, took off the weight of the basket. And I did that with every basket of fabric in my stash. And I costed it according to these 5 metres as well, on what 6 kilos of fabric would probably have cost. And I nearly died of fright when I started writing the line of zeros on that dollar sign after the dollar sign.
So you have a big
stash. I nearly
stash.
died. I took a 0 off, right?
Just so
yeah, I have
better.
a big stash. I have a stash that I can write the letters SABLE, Sable, after my name, and it stands for Stash Above and Beyond Life Expectancy. So, yeah, and I've got more than you could possibly go.
But what attracts you specifically when you're looking at fabric? Or is it just whatever catches your eye and you grab it?
Yeah, it's what would this be if I was, say, making a landscape quilt or something like that. I bought a stack of fabric yesterday, and I bought it because it was a range I hadn't seen, and I thought, that's great mid-distance foliage. This is great rocks in a rocky cliff. They weren't necessarily fabrics made to do that. And I don't always buy a fabric that has to be that. You'll often find, if you look close up at my quilts, I might have a fabric with buttons printed on it in a cliff or fish. And in my mind, it might be fish fossils, because that's an area where you find fossils. Mm-hmm. There's wheat in some of the fabrics, in some of the rocks in one of the quilts I made, and things like that. I just wanted to give an impression from a distance when it's cut. It also needs to be interesting when people get close.
Okay.
For them to think, oh gosh, she's put pansies on a rock. And it's fun. It becomes interesting. It holds people's attentions when they come in close.
Fabulous, fabulous. So where did you learn to sew?
My mother taught me when I was 11. She gave me an allowance for clothing, and I went out and bought something pretty and gorgeous and girly. And then I needed shoes a few weeks later, and I said, "What about shoes? Can you buy me some?" She said, "No, that comes out of your allowance." And I nearly died of shock because there was no way I wanted to budget for stuff like shoes and underwear and boring things. So in the end, she taught me how to sew because in those days it saved a lot of money. And I loved making clothes. I used to get up in the morning sometimes, find my washing wasn't dry, and make a dress before I went to work so I had something to wear.